One, two, three, four.
You are listening to SKYLIT, the SKYLIT Books podcast. SKYLIT Books is a general interest bookstore in the Los Feliz neighborhood in Los Angeles. You can shop with us from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. or visit us online 24/7 at skylitbooks.com. Follow along at SKYLIT Books Instagram and Twitter. You can subscribe to the podcast on Podbean, iTunes, and Spotify. Thank you for listening, and now on to the episode.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to SKYLIT, a SKYLIT Books podcast. I'm your host, Mike Jeffrey. SKYLIT Books is an independent bookstore located in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles, California. We've returned to our regular business hours at the store. We're open every day from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. We're asking unvaccinated customers to continue wearing masks, but if you got your shots, you're good to come in without one. And we're still offering online shopping and curbside pickup through our website, www.skylitbooks.com. And you can check out our upcoming events on our Crowdcast page, crowdcast.io/SKYLITBooks. I'm honored to be joined today by Keenan, Norris, and Tongo Eisen-Martin, who will be discussing Keenan's new novel, The Confessions of Copeland Cane. Keenan is a novelist, essayist, and short story writer. He was a 2017 Marin Headlands Artist in Residence and has garnered a Public Voices Fellowship, a Callaloo Fellowship, and 2 Yerba Buena Center for the Arts Fellowships. He teaches American literature and creative writing at San Jose State University and serves as a guest editor for the Oxford African American Studies Center. He's the editor of the seminal Streetlit, Representing the Urban Landscape, and Keenan's short work has appeared in numerous forums, including the Los Angeles Review of Books, Los Angeles Times, Alta, PopMatters.com, Boom, A Journal of California, and several anthologies of California literature. Originally from San Francisco, Tongo Eisen-Martin is a poet, movement worker, and educator. His latest curriculum on extrajudicial killing of Black people, We Charge Genocide Again, has been used as an educational and organizing tool throughout the country. His book titled Someone's Dead Already was nominated for a California Book Award. His latest book, Heaven Is All Goodbyes, was published by the City Lights Pocket Poet series and was shortlisted for the Griffin's Poetry Prize and won a California Book Award and an American Book Award. His forthcoming book, Blood on the Fog, is being released this fall in the City Lights Pocket Poet series. He is San Francisco's 8th Poet Laureate. How are you two doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. And I just want to say real quick, thanks to SKYLIT, and thanks especially to the brother Tongo for being here and just sharing conversation. So.
It's all good, man. Much love. Honored to be with you both.
It's a real pleasure to have you both on the show. We're really excited about Keenan's novel. And if you wouldn't mind reading a bit from it before you and Tongo discuss it, it would be a treat.
All right. So I'm going to read from the very start of The Confession of Copeland Cane. So as some context for the book, the catalyzing event of the novel, the 2 catalyzing events of the novel, are that the main character, Copeland Cane, or Cope as he goes by, one of his childhood friends is killed by a police officer. Cope and some of his friends, as well as others, organize a protest rally in protest of this killing. And at the rally, a police officer is shot and killed. All the other organizers, at least all of Cope's friends who are organizers, are arrested. Cope is still free. And when law enforcement begins to publish his juvenile criminal record, Cope then decides that, because the police aren't sticking to, just the facts of the case, but trying to tell a story about who he is as a person, he must, counter that narrative, tell his own story. So he contacts a journalism major, a friend of his, he was in college, his journalism major, and asks her to record and later to publish his story. That story is not just the story of what happened on that day, right, but the story of Cope's life. And so the book begins not with Cope, but with Jacqueline, the friend that he contacts. Don't worry about who I am. Like Copeland would say, don't vex, or do it on your own time and about yourself. Don't vex me. I have enough to worry about all by myself. I stayed up all night last night with my thoughts, and on this sleepless morning, they are still with me. Maybe I should say, yes, I'll make this recording and risk my reputation and possibly my freedom in the process. Or maybe I should tell him to turn himself in. Make sure to text it to him, put it in writing, so that law enforcement doesn't go getting his Black people confused. Who am I? I could say more about myself, but it would only reveal my methods of misdirection. The real tell is what I decide to do with this dilemma that boy has decided to drop into my voicemail like an orphan child onto my doorstep. If I put my student journalist suit on, there's no way I can say no to the wailing child. Not when his story is all but knocked on my door and asked me to tell it. Not when his story could make my career before I've even made it out of college. And all I have to do is hit record. That's a question, not a statement. That's all I have to do. I have no idea what to do, let alone what comes next. Only that Cope's got to talk to someone, got to tell a story to someone, to everyone. After all, law enforcement, via So Clear, has wasted no time telling theirs. Early reports indicate that the remaining fugitive is a male between ages 15 and 25, African-American, athletic build, has a history of criminal behavior as a juvenile. Investigators are reviewing his records. A second bulletin states that if he does not turn himself in before their next scheduled briefing in 2 days' time, that they will bring charges. They might charge a single individual or multiple persons, maybe with one crime, maybe with multiple crimes. The public wants answers, so apparently everything is on the table. The timetable is even on the table. Charges might come sooner. One part of me doesn't want to involve myself in this. Another tells me that I'm already involved, that there's no way not to be involved. Maybe being Black means there is no means of escape. I'm always implicated, even when I have no connection to the crime, even when it's only my heart that keeps me here, thinking, questioning, fighting myself over freedom. That boy, he's out there phoning me like fear of arrest doesn't factor into his equation, like fear is foreign to him, which I know it's not. Maybe he knows something I don't and has figured out how to evade the police and the news, but I doubt it. As for me, I'm careful beyond careful not to state whether I'm contemplating my innocence in a studio apartment or a small condo or a townhome or a student hostel. And my city shall remain undisclosed, thank you. I police myself better than the police ever could. Here, how about I play detective on myself, interrogate my own imagination? Where might I be? How about an unaccounted for New York City cellar, underground, literally? And like Cope's phone, I'm old school. I testify under penalty of perjury that I am me and the far side is on the phonograph. I'm smoking the finest California kush, so good they might recriminalize it. Meanwhile, I've strung LED lights across the perimeter of the ceiling to illumine me to myself. That story makes more sense than the other one repeating itself in my thoughts. That story is the one where I tell Copeland to play it safe, turn himself in, and prove his innocence in court. As soon as that story starts to take hold, and I make my mind up to call him back and tell him what to do, I hear laughter, loud, deep laughter. I'm laughing, but it's not my laugh, not my tenor at all that I'm hearing. It's something from the inside of the city instead. A boy laughing through the streets and my body so loudly that all I can hear is him. And his laughing becomes crying, and crying becomes testifying. He calls out through me, to me, ain't shit safe, girl. And then following that, we have Cope. I'm just going to read from the very start of Cope's long monologue. They already arrested Keisha Free and DeMichael, snatched them up easy because So Clear done searched out their location. And then law enforcement did that criminal contact tracing thing, followed them from their phones and whatnot, bagged them up. As long as we're talking technology, boss, you might as well know my audio comes to you unencrypted in this bootleg old pre-Sage voice app, the most off-brand, unheard of cell phone app you will ever encounter. It calls itself the Cayman Island of apps. Don't ask how I got this mess on my phone, but it's all yours truly got to work with right now. So you might have to trust me on this one, even if you're not trying to trust this technology. Real talk, Jack. I only ask the people hear me all the way out. It won't jeopardize y'all no kind of way, except maybe in y'all feelings. I can't tell you about your heart, Jack, but I'm gonna tell you what's in mine. Nobody want to hear why shit hit such a swerve and went so left, but the fact is, it was all kind of facts, then built up to the one big fact. Excuse me, edit that. The one pivotal incident that everybody and their mama cares so much about. The crime in question, the weed that worked its way up from spoiled soil to choke the chief gardener. Now I'm giving testimony the only way I know how, without having Mr. Miranda's rights read to me. I'm making a real record right now, not just of how that man got, but about everything that got me here. Copeland Cane, the alleged accomplice, the fugitive, the ghost, the rabbit, the radiated, the remediated, medicated, incarcerated, the child who fell out of colored people time and into America. The whole deal. To go against the apex predator they steady creating me into on the news feed every 5 minutes. And fair warning, I tend to tell 3 stories to tell one and get sidetracked sometimes. But I'm gonna try and not do that shit.
Wow, man, off the hook. Man. There's such a you can really feel the kind of living consciousness or the intelligent designer really moving as the text moves. It really gives this sense of, almost like you can feel it, almost like life improvising itself as it does. Out in this commonly observed universe that we, have to kick it in. How do you accomplish that? You understand what I'm saying? Like, as opposed to, kind of like the sky was gray. Like it's really like a kind. It's much more of a living kind of an organism.
I mean, I want my writing to be immersive, I'm a great admirer of your poetry, and there's a way that, the poet's voice oftentimes, because it's so visceral, I want it really gets to you, like gets in your soul in a certain way that, novels can take a long time to do. It's kind of like they got this long wind up and, you got to wait 100 pages for them to get to what they're talking about. And I wanted to have more of that immediacy and doing, writing the book through these first person voices allow me to do that. Just kind of getting in character, honestly, just being in character, and then just like the kitchen sink strategy, like, nobody knows who I am. I mean, I might as well just write what I feel like, right?
Did you stumble onto that conclusion? Was this an experiment you ran? Was it like Eureka, the first person?
Yeah.
Or how did this story kind of exist for you first?
Yeah, I mean, so a number of things. So in terms of how the story existed first, so a few things. So like Copeland has these different identities, or these kind of different worlds through which he moves, right? He's, he's a kid in East Oakland. He's a, he becomes, he's in the juvie system for a little while. He also runs track and becomes a star track athlete at, prep school. So he has all these different, and then he's a political activist toward the end of his story. And so I was kind of inspired, one, by my father's experience. My dad was a All-American track runner and at the college level. and also was an activist and paid pretty heavily for that. You can learn more about what he and some of his fellow activists at Fresno State went through by accessing the campus unrest archive at Fresno State in their Madden library. And so I was inspired by that. And also a story that John Carlos, I teach at San Jose State, and so we have the, Tommy Smith and John Carlos on the medal stand. We got the statue, and my dad ran against both those cats at the time. So I've spoken to Mr. Carlos, and there's a story he told that's actually begins his autobiography. Is way before he gets into, way before he's even a sprinter or goes to the Olympics or anything. And that story, I heard him tell it, I read it, it was like, I just started to get inspired, and I kind of saw the lines of, the lines of inspiration going. And then in like 2015, I, after the police murders of Walter Scott, Eric Garner, and, many other unarmed Black people, that also inspired me to, to work on the book. And then last but not least, I went to Callaloo, African Diaspora Writers Workshop. And going to Callaloo and getting feedback on my first 20 pages from those brothers and sisters, Nafisa Thompson Spires, Tony Ann Johnson, many others. A lot of great poets were there. That kind of gave me the steam to get started with the book. So.
Man, that's so interesting. What if I'm really curious just about the kind of the evolution of your craft, and if you could name kind of eras, if you could name incarnations of yourself, what would they be?
Yo, I love that question. Thank you. Yeah, incarnations. Yeah, that's beautiful. I think, obviously you have the Ellison reference there with the LED light strung up and all that, so Ellison definitely, my father gave me, when I was 13 or 14, my dad gave me Go Tell It on the Mountain by James Baldwin. He said, read this, you'll know more about who I am. He gave me Native Son. He was from West Side of Chicago. He gave me Native Son next year. He said, read this, you'll know more about where I'm from. And then he gave me Invisible Man. He's like, I don't really know. I can't really make heads or tails of this damn book, but I hear it's great. Take it and figure something out. And he, and that book really just, because it's so surreal, it's got the first person voice. It's, it's both very real and surreal at the same time. So, Ellison's somebody through a brook of fire through which I feel I had to pass. More recently, there's some brothers writing right now, James McBride, Mitchell S. Jackson, Paul Beatty, who just use the first person in really remarkable dynamic ways, and not just first person, but different levels of diction and everything. There's that line where Cope says, it was all kind of facts done built up to the one big fact, excuse me, edit that, the pivotal incident. It's he can move back and forth, he's not, he's not easily just classified to one kind of, vernacular,
What do you make of this kind of current political moment we're in? And how has that, how has your analysis, how's your analysis of the times today kind of danced with the analysis that bubbled up through the writing of the book?
Yeah, it's 2020 was such a in 2020 felt like this tidal shift, but really what it was a kind of a it was the world sank its teeth into some of the problems that already existed that much deeper, from the differential healthcare that people of color and Black people especially receive, and that's like encoded into the medical system. And so you saw that played out in the most brutal ways possible with COVID, to climate change, obviously, and police brutality. And so I feel like that kind of like triple assault upon the body politic, I think it vivifies for people all kinds of things we were already dealing with. So like I had the people are in masks in my story at certain points, but I didn't write that in 2020. That was already in my book before 2020, because we were walking around masks a couple of years before that because of the fires. Exactly. Right. We both know there's nothing new about police brutality and murders of unarmed Black people and so forth. And so I feel like in part it's just it's like an intensification. We're living through a period of political intensification. I also think that because of the kind of polarized nature of our civil discourse or uncivil discourse, that you have like objective reality is something that a lot of people feel is on the table. And so there's a lack of speaking across across experiences, across across political affiliations, across race, et cetera, et cetera. And so I wanted a book that both was very much of Oakland, very much of a Black experience, but that also wasn't just like confined to the sympathies of Black people, that that could try to speak to a wider group of people. And so yeah, I mean, there's so much going on. I kind of feel like it's just like here comes everybody, here comes everything.
Man, I really love your man. You're so selfless, man. Even in your or your use of all of the rest of reality as like landmark and departure point for analysis, man, is really beautiful. Have you is there kind of another thread of this internal cultivation that you seem to display? Like what other habits and practices, man, go into the making of what you do?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think meditation is something that I've probably about 2 years ago that I returned to, that had been a big part of my life for a long time, and then I kind of strayed away from. And coming back to that kind of stillness did help me with the editing of the book, and kind of taking this wild mess kitchen sink thing that I created that was over 400 pages long and kind of crazy, and fashioning it down into something that people might actually want to read and that made sense on every page. And so, because I feel like we're all, I'm a crazy mess of stuff, and most people are. I think that in order to, or at least in order to like write the kind of stuff I do, I have to, get, out of my like workaday mind, my teacher mind, my my other the other kinds of identities that are also part of who I am, and kind of just not leave them behind, but get to a place where my language is as visceral as possible, where my mind is as settled as possible. So running helps me, writing at night helps me, and like just hearing people's speech, like walking the streets and hearing people talk, yeah.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
I'm interested more in that kind of like contradiction and cooperation that exists between the kind of the craft of teaching
Mm-hmm.
and the craft of writing. Man, what else goes on in those trenches for you, or have you noticed, or
Yeah.
used, or
Yeah.
have you learned to relax with?
Yeah, so I teach creative writing at San Jose State. I've taught taught another MFA program before that. So I've taught creative writing for a few years now. I think that it's it is a challenge to kind of take what I do, which I feel is like deeply birthed out of like very personal experiences. Like I kind of and sometimes abstract them through fiction, but I feel like the core of what I write in everything, really from voice, narrative, ideas, like it's all very personal to me. It's all totally personal. It's a challenge to go from that kind of space and trying to fully embody that to then teaching somebody else, because honestly, I feel like I was born a writer. I don't feel like anybody made me a writer. People helped me, definitely. A lot of people have helped me, but I don't feel like anybody made me a writer, And so I think that one thing that I really want to stress with my students is, is them, honing their craft. I can help them hone their craft, but also that they need to like trust their vision. They need to have a vision and trust it. And really, and I think it's very easy because, especially with a novel, like there are so many dips and so many times when you lose the thread and everything along the way before you even get a first draft done. That can be very hard to do. It can be very hard to trust yourself. And so that's something that I, where I challenge my students. I think also just, bringing a perspective to them that, most of them are not acquainted with. I'm a Black American teaching in San Jose, California. It's like 2%, right? And so, so that too, I think that I have a lot of their reading base, but I also have some other literature that I'm more aware of than they are. And so, so reading lists, making sure that they're, reading as widely as possible. And, since we're all heir to everything that has been written, said and thought. So, yeah.
Right on. Back to Cope, man. What were there other you talked about kind of just like the cosmic utensil of these first persons, man. Are they what were some other kind of almost martial art discoveries you made along the way as you were writing the book?
Yeah. It's interesting. You have a line in The Course of Meal where you say, apparently this, I'm going to get it a little bit wrong, so my apologies, but you say something like, apparently, this dream requires more condemned Africans, yeah. Right? And that really has stuck with me. I almost made it the epigram to the book. So that ain't no joke, right? There's and Cope is, you're talking about San Francisco. Cope lives in Oakland, but this book is set 10 years into the future, and so in 2030, and so basically I'm theorizing, what will Oakland be like 10 years from now, 9 years from now, right? And so I think that one discovery that I made as I wrote the book was in like taking on speculative fiction. To the extent that I do by writing about the near future, I really had to kind of learn how to think not on top of the moment, like just something my editor really stressed with me is, you know, like we kind of, you know, yeah, honestly, as we kind of figured out like exactly what the book it was, it's like, you can't just write on top of the moment. So like some craziness happens here, you know, Capitol insurrection or something, or some other craziness happens, or, and it's like very tempting to just like, boom, you know, write what it is, you know, but but because the book's set in the near future, it's really thinking about, okay, this is what it is. What will it be? You know, and that was really challenging. That was really challenging. And I don't know that I'm always successful with it, but it was, you know, that's something to, you know, I just think in general that, you know, young writers can, you know, can learn from is, you know, it's one thing to like just kind of tell the news, but what we can do is bring other martial arts, right, to, you know, to our stories or to our, you know.
Man, it's such a beautiful decision, man, you know, and there's, I think there's a lot of food there. What, not to leave Cope alone, but have you been what experiments have you been running lately, man? What's been on your mind?
Yeah. So let me see. I have a book, Luster, coming out in a few months from Nomadic Press, which I know we both Nomadic. And shout out to Black Freighter Press too.
Yeah,
you know,
right on.
Yeah,
We appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm publishing as a novella, and it kind of takes the other side of the game. So this is, you know, Copeland's really about the, you know, it's largely about like the police state and, you know, its impact, the police state, the big tech state and so forth, its impact on marginalized people of color. But Luster is more about the, you know, the debts we owe each other, you know, and the responsibilities that we hold to one another, you know, within our communities. And so it's a book about a young man who is, who's an ex-convict. He's come home, and he, you know, went to jail on a, you know, just behind drugs and not nonviolent. But there is a crime that he did not commit, but that he's aware of, that he knows was far worse than what he went to jail for, which he was negligent in his response to. And it's about the kind of reparative work around that. And so, I'm, you know, I'm finishing up with that. I have a nonfiction book that I'm working with through Ohio State Press about Chicago. And that's been, you know, that's been a rocky road with that one, but I'm gonna try to finish it this summer. Yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about just because, you know, this, like certain times you have a project and it just goes 5 different ways and you kind of lose the thread. So even as I like maybe have a success with one book, you know, one book or one story, you know, I'm also struggling, you know, with something else and kind of don't really have it in hand, you know, and so got a few things. Yeah.
Hey, well, that's heroic though, man. You keep a lot of, you know, you keep a lot of worlds multiversing. You know, I'm jealous, man. You know, I'm kind of a one trick pony on one parking lot. I'm one pony on one parking lot. But yeah, man. Is there any you know, any final thoughts?
You know, yeah, I mean, I just say that what you know, I would just, you know, like people, if they, you know, whether or not they read the book, to you know, try to think about these cities, you know, that, you know, so many of us live in, and the kind of multiple and, you know, conflicting pressures that all of us face. What, you know, if things continue in the trajectory they are right now, what those cities will look like and what your experience will be of them, you know, in only a few years' time, and take heed to that.
Right on, man. Much respect, bro.
Thank you so much for taking the time, Keenan and Tongo. That was a great conversation. Today's guests were Keenan Norris and Tongo Eisen-Martin, and they were discussing Keenan's new novel, The Confessions of Copeland Cane. You can order your copy of the book or any of the others mentioned on today's podcast at skylitbooks.com or swing by and pick them up at the store. Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Skylight Books podcast series. Please don't forget to visit our website at skylitbooks.com and make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast for more author talks and bookseller conversations. You can find us on Podbean, iTunes, and Spotify. Stay safe and healthy, and we hope to see you back in our store soon.